Anchor is the easiest way to make a podcast. Anchor gives you everything you need in one place for free, which you can use right from your phone or computer. Creation tools allows you to record and edit your broadcast so it sounds great. And they even distribute your broadcast for you so that it can be heard everywhere. Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google Podcasts. So make sure you download the Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started.
Hello everyone, and here are your FET news for this week. Join host Andrew Frett every Thursday for Frett's Education Thoughts, where he discusses his own opinions and thoughts about the topics on Future Educators Talk and what's happening around the world. Follow and subscribe to my own podcast, Damian Talks Education, everywhere you stream your podcast at. And make sure you subscribe to the podcast YouTube channel and hit the notification bell so you never miss an episode. New episodes of Future Educators Talk drops on Thursdays. So follow and subscribe wherever you listen to your favorite podcast at. Follow Future Educators Talk on social media. You can go to facebook.com/Future Educators Talk and like our page. On Instagram at Future Educators Talk, and on Twitter at Future Ed Talk. So follow our podcast. And follow your host of Future Educators Talk on social media. You can follow me, Damian Anderson, on Instagram at Damian Anderson, and on Twitter at _Damian Anderson. You can follow Andrew Frett on Instagram at It's Andrew Frett, and on Twitter at Darren_Frett. And you can follow KJ Johnson II on Instagram and Twitter at KJ Johnson II. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, Future Educators Talk, and hit the notification bell so you never miss an episode of our video version episodes that we upload. Also, you can now listen to past episodes of our show on YouTube and on all the podcast platforms that we are located on. Now sit back and relax because a new episode of Future Educators Talk is starting now.
Well, hello everyone. Welcome back to Future Educators Talk. I am your co-host, Andrew Frett.
And I am Damian Anderson here. And as you can see, if you're watching this on our YouTube channel or you're listening to this on podcast, that our co-host KJ is not here with us, but trust me, you guys, he will be in the next episode with me. So I promise you that he will be in with me because Andrew, like he explained earlier into the season, that he'll be out in some episodes to take a break, to refresh, to restart. So I trust you guys. Next week's episode, KJ, he will be back on Future Educators Talk because probably some of you guys are wondering, well, he's only been in the second episode and then the special episode that we did with Mr. Luther. And y'all probably wondering, where is he at? Well, you guys, we have been busy and he has as well. So I trust you guys that next week he'll be here with me. I promise you that.
Yes.
I just have to say that to just get that out because I know we keep saying that in these episodes we've been doing that KJ will join us next week and he hasn't. So I promise you guys he will join me next week. Okay. I just had to say that.
Yes. So he will be here next week. Just like you said earlier, this episode will be my last episode before I take a break. Now, many of you have asked, I have been here since the very first episode, even the special episode with Coach Darnell, and you know, everybody's wondering when you're going to take that break. Well, since I've been here since, ever since the beginning of the season, this will be my last episode. I will take a 8 episode leave, which means I'll be back for episode 18. And then I'll be back. But with all that news out the way, we have a returning special guest that is waiting on us. Actually, you may know him from season 2 if you watch, not watch. Well, actually watch. If you listen to the season 2 finale, he's a co-host of To Be Continued podcast. He's a host of More to Think's podcast. He's a teacher. He's a graduate of NCANT. So please welcome back to the one and only, let me see if I can bring him back on, Mr. Morrison. There he is. There he is.
Yes. Hello, Mr. Morrison. Welcome back to our podcast. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I am well. Thank you so much for coming back on. So,
thanks for having me.
Yes. So my first question for you, because you was with us for our season 2 finale, and of course we got some new listeners for this season. So why don't you tell us a little bit about who Mr. Brandon Morrison is?
I should have prepared my elevator speech. Yeah, so my name is Brandon Morrison. I am in my 7th year of teaching. I'm an elementary school teacher. I've taught 4th through 6th grade in those going on 7 years. Graduated from North Carolina A&T State University, so Aggie pride to all the Aggies out there, and have been in North Carolina all my life. So born and raised and still here teaching.
Right. So my next question for you, since you are a teacher, what kind of like inspired you to become a teacher? Who influenced you on to becoming a teacher? Like any of your former teachers, your friends? Why don't you tell us what inspired you to want to be a teacher?
I think it's a mix. When I look back on my life, I've always been a person who loves learning for the sake of learning. So I love learning about any and everything. And I think I kind of carry that with me as a teacher. But I think what I valued so much was the ability to kind of share information out and enlighten others on topics. And so I think going through elementary, middle, and high school, I had teachers that kind of allowed me to pursue that thrill of learning. But then I also started to experience moments where I was able to step into roles where I got to educate people. Like in high school, I was kind of put in the position to create our freshman orientation. So we were a small early college. So my teachers would let me plan the freshman orientation, get people together, plan out what we needed to do, and kind of take kids through that, or the freshmen through that. Our school building and things of that sort. And in church, I was always being chosen to participate and plan and do events and things like that. And so being able to connect with people, but also kind of bring them to some destination, I think is what teaching does. And so when I went to college, I had this idea that I was going to save the world through educating people. And so that's what I aim to do every day. And I think I have aspirations that stick with education no matter if I'm in a classroom for the rest of my career. But I just think it's always been in me in some type of way. And thankfully, I had people that kind of kept me in that path all my life.
Especially because you don't want those negative people to, steer that away from you. So it's really important. I think we talked about this too, Damian, earlier in the episode. Them negative people out the door, because positive people only, because they want you to succeed. They want you to see you grow. So it's very important to have those people in your life.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, I had those in and out of my family. You know, teachers don't make a lot of money, they're not respected overall, and things like that. But, you know, at the end of the day, I think what your purpose is, or the benefits of education, far outweigh what a few people, a few dissenters can try to do to you. And that's what you kind of have to keep focused on. Like, what I'm doing is bigger than me, and it's bigger than the haters or the doubters that are, you know, sometimes in your group that, like you said, you have to weed out and get them out.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I guess it's my turn to ask the question, because Damien's quiet. Um, because I know I asked him pretty some good questions here. The first question, well, the other question that I have is, what do you wish you have known 10 years ago?
So 10 years ago, I would have just been about to enter college, or entering college my freshman year. So um, 10 years ago, I think I would have loved to know how capable I am. I
Hmm.
think I'm my own biggest critic, and I think I've always been very, very hard on myself, and mistakes were big to me. And I made a lot of them, but they were just all big to me. And so I think it kind of caused me to kind of doubt what I was able to do. And I think my college experience would have been even further enhanced. It was great, but I think I would have been able to enhance it if I just fully believed in myself. And coming into the teaching arena, I think I would have kind of, I think I would have advocated more in the early years. You know, usually you come in and you know you're a novice to the profession, and you kind of sometimes let people run all over you or make you feel like your ideas don't carry as much weight. So I think 10 years ago, if I knew when I stepped on the A&T's campus that in 4 years I was going to come out being a very capable teacher, but also understanding the bigger picture, I think I would be even stronger in the profession now.
Hmm.
But I'm still happy with where I am.
Hmm. That's a pretty interesting, good answer right there. Good answer, man. Um, well, what advice would you give someone that wants to pursue a career like us, like me and Damian, in that profession?
Two things that I usually tell, and again, this is only my 7th year, so I still consider myself new to the game.
Mhm.
Um, but I will say two things. One, you cannot save everyone. And that has been the hardest thing to accept, because when I step into a classroom, I tell myself, you know, that I'm coming in here to make sure all of my kids grow and all of them are successful and things like that. And sometimes there's just so many barriers that you cannot tear down in a year. So in 180 days, I can't always take every single child and build a foundation with them to the point where they are going to be set for life. It's going to take me and then several other teachers, hopefully, that are pouring into them as much as I try to, over and over and over again, to hopefully produce, you know, an individual that's able to reach that self-attainment that they're seeking. So know that you're not going to change the life to some dynamic scale for every single student. But what I will add to that is there's a little story, you may have heard it. Sometimes they use starfish, sometimes they use turtles. But it's a story of a little boy who's walking on the beach, and he sees this old man picking up turtles and taking them to the water, baby turtles. and he's taking them to the water and releasing them in the water. And the little boy asks the old man, what are you doing? And he says, I'm taking the turtles to the water to save them. And the little boy's like, well, there's a bunch of turtles out here, and these turtles are going to die and they're going to get eaten up. And the old man picks up another turtle, and as he's walking it to the water, he looks at the little boy and says, this one won't. And so I that's one of my favorite stories, because the old man realized that there was no way that he was going to save every single one of those baby turtles, but he was doing all that he could to save a few. And so that's what I go into my classroom and know, that if I can save a few, I might send out this ripple effect where those few may be able to save some that I can't reach later on in life. But I also keep in mind that I don't know who those few are. So that's why I put my all into every student. So no, I can't save them all, but going in there knowing that I don't know which ones I will, and putting my all into each and every one of them, is something. So anyone going into the profession, I will tag that to my second piece of advice. Don't just do it because you like kids. Because it's a lot more, and there are days where you won't like them. So when you go in there, know that you may love kids, or you may be learning to love kids, but go in there with a purpose that they need you, and you're here to do something that will shape the rest of their lives, even in a small portion. Sorry, that was a long way around.
Oh man, Damian?
I'm with you too, Andrew. So here's and I ask everyone this here. What could you do if you could do anything to improve our education system, what would you possibly do? Because there are some works that needs to be done. Like, for example, and the purpose of this podcast here is to raise the 2% of the African American male teachers. I mean, that is just insane to us and a lot of other people, that 2%. So what would you do to improve and fix our education system?
Ooh, loaded question. I would say one thing is I would find greater ways to amplify teachers' voices. I think it's unfortunate that the education system has become so politicized, but with that, it's even more unfortunate that the people who have the closest connections to students and their families and the communities surrounding these schools are usually treated as if they aren't valued. Their voices aren't valued. And I think as a teacher, our knowledge and our experiences are so precious and so valuable to the conversation, because we understand more than anyone, I think, in the chain of command, how or what education means to people, and what the power of education. And I think sometimes we put people in places that unfortunately have no connection to the education system, especially the public education system. They weren't teachers. They went to school, yes, because it was the law, but then they went into politics because, that's sustainable, and you can kind of get in there for a while and do what you want. And we kind of see that now, especially speaking for the North Carolina government right now. We can see the pressures that's been put on our governor, who is quite pro-education. But I think I would love to get more teachers into office, so that we can really promote policies and push for policies that create the change that we know the students and the teachers and all the other staff members that work in the school system deserve. It shouldn't be a battle to take care of children. It shouldn't be a debate to take care of children. We shouldn't have had to protest to senators to give us a waiver to feed our kids, and things like that irk my spirit really deeply, because to me, when you try to politicize humanity, you're going down a path that's going to create a next generation of not only unprepared citizens to continue your society, but you're also going to leave them in such an imbalance that it's America can't survive. The world can't survive. You know, we're pushing kids to be competitive with hunger, you know, with poverty. We're pushing kids to try to be this ideal human being, but we're not putting any resources behind them or the bare minimum. But we are giving tax breaks to billionaires. We're doing all of these other things that we don't usually think filter into education, but it does. It does. So again, long story short, get as much politics out of education as possible, and what you can't get out of it, put teachers in those places with the voices that are going to advocate for what really needs to happen.
Yes, absolutely. 100%. You know, you got to have experience in the school system before you jump into politics, at least.
It'd be nice.
Yeah. So,
So, and then you probably will have to really think on this question that I'm going to ask you. How would you like to be remembered as a teacher once you have retired from education? How would you like for all your students and the people around you to be remembered as?
I do have to think on that one.
let's say these questions are different from season 2. So
Yeah, season 2, I had less hair and easier questions. Yeah, I can't say that I have something specific that I want everyone to remember me by. I think I want to, as much as possible, kind of impact people personally. So there may be a kid who maybe could not stand me as his science teacher, but he knew that he was supported. Or there may be a kid who, you know, thought that they were, you know, the smartest thing in that school, and then I challenged them a little bit more and pushed them a little bit more, and they valued that. Or a kid that I never gave up on when they were just trying to make me to. So, you know, I think kids are so different, and each year I come into a different class with different kids in some type of way. And so I think I always try to adapt to those kids and then impact them in what they need, because I don't want everyone to, I don't expect everyone to be everything, and I know that I can't be everything to everyone. And so if I can just be something to that one person and then maybe something else to another person, and they remember that, you know, I think I've done my job. And even if they don't remember me, but they just become a better person, or they've grown in some way that allows them to get closer to who they want to be, that's fine. You don't have to remember Mr. Morse's name specifically. Sometimes I think that might be better. That means a lot of people have had a good impact on you, so you've actually had a good life.
Yeah. All right. Believe, because I know it's the Zoom thing is like 40 minutes. I'm trying to wrap up as many questions as possible. For me, I don't have any questions. Damian?
No. He basically answered all my questions that I have for him. Oh, and this one thing here, and I asked everyone this. We are dealing with a lot right now in the world today, with trying to talk about race and racism, the Black Lives Matter movement, the protests, the presidents, and so on. So what do you think of all of this? Why did we wait it now after George Floyd's death to start talking about all these issues. Why do you think that? And what are your thoughts on all of what's happening now in our world?
Yeah, I think I was telling Andrew before we got started that I've had to learn how to this time period. I've had to learn how to try to balance myself. I love to learn, but I also love being in the know. So I love,
Mhm.
like, I feel like I'm compelled to continue to understand what's happening around the world because I can't just be comfortable in myself when I know someone else is suffering.
Mhm.
And I guess that's a blessing and a curse in a lot of cases. But um, I think I think because so much happens so quickly, usually we're not challenged as a society, as a country, to tackle all of these things head on at once. But this pandemic has been a a, a special case because it's never happened. And
Mhm.
so I think the biggest issue is because the pandemic became so politicized that people had to tear it apart in a way of saying this pandemic is now exacerbating all of these other things that people have been advocating for, that they've been saying these things are going on. For example, in the school system, we have known for well over a decade that not only were schools being underfunded, but schools were not keeping up with technology because of the funding. But then we got hit with a pandemic that sent everybody home. So
Mhm.
teachers couldn't adapt. We couldn't adapt to not having technology in our schools by, creating assignments that allowed the teacher to kind of use what they had. And so now we're still in a case where thousands of students just in my county don't have devices because they're either backlogged or because there's so many people trying to buy them at once, or it's just the inequities that we knew have been happening, you know, and we've
Mhm.
been saying are happening are now at the forefront. So I think the pandemic kind of started sending a lot of people home, but it created a lot more tension. And then with George Floyd and Breonna Taylor and so many other people, we were kind of sitting there in it. And so it's like I call it a soup situation because a soup is a hot mess because there's a
Mhm.
bunch of stuff thrown in there and it's just getting mixed up, and that's what it's been doing. It's literally been mixing, and people were having to sit there in it, and so it created a lot of tension. And I think the pandemic also gave a moment where people could say, look, no, we're had enough. And since we can't go back to our jobs right now, we're going to take it to the streets. And so, that was the positive piece I think of this, is because people were able to actually do that. I think it's still unfortunate though that we politicized it so much that people are still being affected economically. Poverty rates are skyrocketing, hunger is happening, health disparities that were once bad are now worse, and so I think a lot of it is just because of this unique situation that we're in. Everything is kind of boiling up to the top. Whereas usually our everyday lives being in that natural routine, we are a little desensitized to it because we're stuck in that go-getter mentality. I got to go to work so because there's coin to be made, because there's
Mhm.
bills to be paid. I
Mhm.
want to take a vacation. I got to
Mhm.
get this. My
Mhm.
kids got to do this and things like that. When all of that gets disrupted, you have no choice but to have chaos because we don't know how to just not be in that routine. Especially when the government did not step in and help us not be in that routine. It just let us kind of suffer until they decided, oh, it might be safe enough to open. But I can go on that for hours, so I'll stop.
We might have to do a special episode on that. Um, so,
One reason I'll never be an elected official because I talk junk.
hey, all right. So, I just got a notification from Zoom. They removed the 40-minute time limit on the thing. So that's good. That's good. We moved to 40 minutes. All right. Which I believe I'm gonna try to squeeze in one more question if possible. Um, if possible. Um, so what does I don't know, this is going to be a thinkable question because we've been going on we've been going hard on you ever since the beginning of this. So what does your future hold?
Okay, so I'll focus specifically on the education piece because I think that's actually the piece that I've kind of tried to formulate in my mind the most.
Mhm.
Personally, I don't know. Um, but I will say that I need to start working out, and hopefully by 10 years, I'll get that together. But no, I think education wise, I really see myself, I want a boarding school for Black and brown boys.
Mm.
Um, and I want it to be in North Carolina, but I want it to pull from across the country. And I want it to be a school that's not only focused on academics, but also focused on community engagement. I want to focus on building the identity of each and every one of them, helping them understand who they are, what part they play in their communities, and taking steps to kind of get there with the help of mentors, with the help of community leaders, and things of that sort. So, and I think I don't want it to be a very discriminatory sounding by saying that it's an all boys school. I just think that there's just a certain place where they can just focus on their identities there,
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
I'm not saying that gender norms for when I say boys, but I'm not saying gender norms. This is what a boy is. I'm not here to build men to a definition because I don't believe that should exist, but that's another story. But yeah, in 10 years, I hope to be putting in the next steps of starting that boarding school, being able to have built a network that of donors, because I don't want it to be a type of school where parents are having to dish out money for their kid to come. Um, and I just want it to be an opportunity, and again, knowing that I can't save all of them, but an opportunity to pull a few of those turtles and save them, and hopefully when they go out back into their communities, they're builders. um, I want them to build the walls and the roof. I'm just here to try to build the foundation, and that's what I want, because I don't think society, but especially the Black community, survives if we don't build our communities. And I think the generations before us sacrificed so that we can continue to build now. And so that's what I want to do. I want to be a community builder so then they can keep building. So yeah, 10 years, maybe you'll see me promoting the need for donors for my boarding school. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yes, very.
Interesting.
And y'all can come teach.
Hey, hey,
Yes. I'm on
just
board.
send us the
I'm on board.
application. We'll fill it out for you. We'll fill it out. Yeah. Interesting. A boarding school in North Carolina. Oh man.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Oh man. Ooh. I
Hopefully
don't
our
know.
policies and legislation will make North Carolina more attractive.
Mm,
But
Man, oh, man. All right. I know I said I don't have any more questions, but I'm being dead serious now. I don't have any questions now. I don't have any questions. I don't have any questions.
So, is there, and we ask this to every guest that comes on, are you currently working on any projects in the near future? You just mentioned that boarding school, but is there anything else? Is there something that you're doing during this pandemic to keep you occupied that you would like to share with all of us?
I'm currently like really trying to just maintain virtual teaching. But I I started creating like a website. I think I enjoy doing my podcast, and due to some personal things, my podcast has kind of taken a little hiatus. But I want to jump into that. But also, I have always enjoyed writing down my ideas about things, and not to become famous or go viral or anything like that, but just to kind of share and let people know that, you know, you may be feeling the same way and you're not alone. So I bought like the little, I lost it. I'm just going to call her URL for my podcast to kind of go along with my Morrison Thinks podcast. It's the morrisonthinks.com. So I bought it. It's not up yet, but I really want to get into writing not only articles that accompany my podcast episodes, but about what's going on in the world. I'm nobody's expert. I love being the master of none. When it comes to learning, I don't ever want to I never really dive into one topic too deeply. I'm always pulling from that. So just kind of to share, get other people's opinions, perspectives as a way to kind of build a community that's not geared toward how much money I can make off of you or how many clicks I can get, you know? And I think that's kind of why I really enjoy coming onto your podcast, because you're not trying to just promote yourselves to get people to hear you. You actually have a purpose that's much deeper. And that's what I kind of want my website to be as well. So I'll let you guys know when I get my, as they say, get your life together, get my life back together and start writing some of those.
Right.
Yes, I'll be looking forward to that as well. So y'all stay tuned. Stay tuned. MorrisonThinks.com. Stay tuned.
Well, I believe that is it from me and Andrew. Again, thank you so much for coming back on to our podcast. It was great to have you back on. So where can people follow you on social media?
Yeah, so my Twitter handle is Morrison Thinks. That's Morrison Thinks. And I also have an Instagram for my podcast, Morrison Thinks Pod. And yeah, so you can follow me on those. Like I said, I did take a bit of a hiatus, but I think over this past week, I've been inspired to want to jump back in there. So be looking out for new episodes soon. So yeah, you can follow me on those.
Right. Well, thank you so much for coming back on, Mr. Morrison. Thank you. It was great for having you on, and we will chat with you very soon. We will do that. So thank you again for coming back on.
It was good to be here. You guys have a good evening.
You too.
You do the same.
Take care. All right. So that was Mr. Morrison from Morrison Thanks podcast. And like you said, a boarding school in North Carolina. That's in 10 years. Also, he wants us to teach there as well.
I'm on board for that.
I'm on board too. So, like I said, look out for that application.
Yes.
I'll look it out on social media in about 10 years, because I will tell you, it'll be just like that math virtual session, which we will get to that in just a second.
Yes.
Y'all, when I'm telling you, it's going to happen. When he sent us that email, hey, I want you to, come to my boarding school. You don't have to say anything. Okay? You don't have to say anything. I'm on board.
Exactly.
What grade I'm teaching, what subject I'm teaching, I'm on board. Okay. All right. Speaking of math virtual session, I'm gonna go ahead and get this out of the way. So if you have watched yesterday, well, the video is up now, today.
Yeah.
But just to clear some air about yesterday, um, in case I think Damian explained it a little bit yesterday, but I'm gonna go ahead and from my voice, from my perspective, I'm gonna go ahead and tell you what happened yesterday. So the reason why I was out yesterday, and this was unexpected, like really, this was unexpected. The reason why I was out yesterday is because my best friend moved to Georgia yesterday, and yesterday was her last day in North Carolina. So I had to drive 40 minutes all the way to her and spend some last moments with her. That is why I was out yesterday. I am, like I told Damian, I needed some time because I know her for about 4 to 5 years, and she moved to Georgia, so I just need some quality time with her. And right after that, I kind of drove around for a little bit, kind of like like Mr. Morrison said, trying to get my life together. Um, Trying not to cry right now. But I think it's the best for her because she has gone through a lot while she was down here in North Carolina. I think Georgia is the best place for her right now. When I say Georgia, I mean the state. Just to clear the air. She's in Georgia, the city, Atlanta, Georgia. Not city, state. So I wish her best of luck while she's down there in Georgia, and nothing but success. So that is why I was out yesterday. But don't you worry, which means I'm behind schedule. But don't you worry, everything will be back to speed on Monday. So we'll be here on Monday for the math virtual session. So just want to clear the air out there.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. When you had told me that you was going to visit your friend to spend some quality time with them before they leave, and I understand about that. That it's I'll let you went ahead and do that because you know that if one of us are out of something, we will step in, and I'll step in here for you. So it was no problem, no problem. The only thing was I explained it in that session that I had recorded it earlier this week, and I just only had to did that, just introduce it and just say that you was out. But yeah, I'm glad that you did that. So yeah.
Yeah, and I appreciate that because, again, that was unexpected. Because my plan was to be there for my virtual lesson until she called me right about 6 o'clock, 6:30 my time, and tell me that she was moving to Georgia and that that I should come down there and visit her for one final time. And so I couldn't, it was either stay or go to her, visit her for one last time. And so I just took that opportunity to visit her one more time. And like I said, that's when I texted you. I was like, look, I'm going to be late. So that's when you know,
Yeah.
I texted you like immediately. Because again, I didn't know, because she didn't really, it was unexpected. She told me yesterday, and so that was really unexpected. So yeah.
So now, is there any announcements to make? I know I have some, but do you have any announcement to make at this time?
So I've already talked about that this episode will be my final episode before I take my 8 episode hiatus break. Frett education thought, not Frett education thoughts. Frett, see, it's gonna take some time to get used to. But Let's Fret About Education is back, which um, for the season 2 premiere, and you might know this person for the season 2 premiere. And I've asked him a interesting questions. It's a very good question as well. So y'all make sure you stay tuned on October 12th to find out who it is. So make sure you stay tuned for that. New episodes will come out every Friday right after a brand new episode of Future Educators Talk. So make sure you do that. That is it for the for my announcements. I know you have an important announcement to make, especially
Yeah.
about next season.
Yes. And right before I get into that, you guys know that, well, let me just say this. Probably when this episode comes out, there will probably be one episode left or two, or it probably has already ended, of Damian Talks Education from season 1. So make sure you guys, if you haven't already, catch up on season 1 of my podcast before season 2 begins, which will begin in November. I'll keep you guys updated for that. And then I'll be shifting into race, talking about education, talking about race on my podcast starting next year in January 2020. So I'll keep you guys posted on that. Now, here's my important announcement to make here. And I'm not going to spill a lot of details because I have already explained this to Andrew and KJ, and then I will explain this to you all at the end of season 4. You guys know that hold on just for 1 minute. You guys know that I love this podcast right here. I do. And I almost in every episode, unless, I'm out sick or whatever, but I'm always dedicated to this podcast here. And I talk about things that are probably very personal to me, whatever we are talking about. So I have made a decision, you guys, for next season, and I am glad that I am doing this, especially at this time here, because we are still in this pandemic. And like I keep on saying, and I'm gonna keep on saying this, you gotta take care of yourself. So I'll keep you guys updated of the special announcement at the end of season 4. So make sure you guys tune in for that.
Yes, absolutely. And in case y'all haven't heard the announcement from the season 4 premiere, can't even talk now, my goodness, that next season I'll be doing this podcast full time. So that's 3 announcements in a row. So y'all just make sure you stay tuned for his announcement at the end of season 4. I think it's a good move for him.
Yes.
I'm speaking on his behalf because, again, and I say this in every episode, he has a lot on his plate, and as a friend, as a future colleague, I worried about things that's going on. Like, he has a lot on his plate, and there are just days where I'm worried about his mental health. There are times where I've asked him, are you sure you're going to do this? Are you sure? Because I don't want you to be overwhelmed. I don't want you to be burnt out. I don't want you to be at 0% when your brain is at 0%. And when he said he got this, I just end the conversation. Like the last text would be okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I just move on.
Mm-hmm.
And so once you hear his announcement at the end of the season, you'll understand why he's taking this break. You'll be understanding why he's, you'll finally understand why he has a whole lot on his plate. You'll finally understand that. And also you will finally understand why I worried about his mental state. So y'all just stay tuned for that season 4 announcement, season 4 announcement. Not also for me as well, but also for KJ. I think KJ has texted you many times as well, worried about your mental state as well.
Yes, yes. Everyone, and I didn't mean to cut you off there, but everyone has you guys, and they've been telling me this, that Damian, you have so much on your plate. Are you sure you can manage all this? And I'll be telling them, yes, I'm fine. I love to be, you guys, I love to stay busy. I really do. But there's a point in your life that you need to take a break. I mean, yes, it's good to keep yourself busy. But with me, you guys, mine wasn't just like this here. It was, I mean, gigantic. And you guys will understand when I make this announcement, you guys will understand, especially what happened to me last year. And I'm not going to get all of that because if I do, I'm going to get emotional. But you guys will understand. And trust me, you guys will understand. So we will keep you guys updated when the day gets closer to the announcement, and you guys will understand. You guys will understand. I don't want to take time all of this here, but yeah, you guys will understand, trust me. If you have been listening to our podcast from the very beginning of season 1 till now, you will understand.
Now, if you're just now listening to this podcast, you have some catching up to do.
Exactly. Because yes, God, it quite started, you guys, in our first season. Well, quite toward the middle of the first season, toward almost close to the end of the first season. That's when it started. And you guys, our first season wasn't our best season. Okay, it wasn't our best. I believe we mentioned it in the season 4 premiere. It wasn't our best season, and that's when that hit for me there. And from season 1, probably at the beginning of season 3 or somewhere in the middle, you guys will understand. Trust me. And I'm a different person now from that. So that's all I have to say there. That's all.
Well, like I said, this is my final. I'm not leaving the podcast. Okay, I'll be back. Yeah, I'll be back. But this is my final episode before I take my episode break. Because I've been here. If you been listening since the very first episode, that I've been here in every single episode, and I know I said last season that I will be on a part-time schedule, and so far I've been in. This is our 10th episode. So y'all probably like, when he gonna take a break?
Exactly.
Episodes.
Yes, you guys. So while he's away, you guys, you guys know I'll still be here.
KJ will be here.
And then
KJ will be
KJ, I promise you guys, KJ will join me in the next few episodes that we will be doing. And when Andrew comes back, we will be back together again because we haven't been back together in the special episode that we did with Coach Darnell. That was the last time that we was officially together. And that was well, I wouldn't say a while, well, probably, yeah, a while back. So next week, you guys, you see me and KJ. And then once Andrew returns, the gang will be back together. So I'm just saying that because you guys are probably wondering, well, where is their new co-host? We only seen him just probably once or twice. And they said that he will be on the next episode. Well, we haven't seen it yet. I promise you guys, he'll be in next week. I promise you.
He will be here next week. Damian will guarantee you next week. While I am away for the next 8 episodes. So don't you worry. Don't you worry. Yes. All right. With all that out the way, and with my signature saying, without further ado, I am your co-host, Andrew.
And I am Damian Anderson.
And you will see Damian and KJ in the next episode of Future Educators Talk. And I will see y'all in the next, in episode 18.
Yes. And that will be toward the end of the season, you guys, when you guys will see Andrew back on. So it would just be me and KJ. So, and he knows we got his back. We will take care of this podcast. So before we end, thank you guys for listening to this episode, and make sure you subscribe to our podcast if you haven't already, which you should have already been.
Yes.
You share this podcast out, you leave a review of this podcast, and also tell your friends about this podcast. Please do. Please tell your friends about it. So again, thank you guys for listening and watching. And I will see you guys next week with KJ on a new episode of Future Educators Talk. So until then, take care of yourself, you guys. Please take care of yourself.
Yes. And I will see y'all in episode 18 of Future Educators Talk. So make sure you take care of yourself. We all in this together.
Yes, yes.
Please wash your hands.
Wash them.
We're not going to get into it, but wash your hands, maintain 6 feet, and please wear your mask for my safety, for Damian's safety, and for KJ's safety. And for see, he's putting it on right now.
Exactly.
He's putting it on right now. Please, just wear a mask. If he can do it, I don't know the way the video is gonna be. If he can do it, so can you. So
exactly.
So, yep. Just do those 3 simple steps, and I will see y'all later. You'll see Damian and KJ next week. Until then, take care.
What's going on, everybody? It's KJ here, letting you know that if you have any questions or concerns about Future Educators Talk, stories to share, feedback to make our podcast better, reactions to the topics that we discuss, jokes to tell, or you would like someone for the co-host to interview, please let us know by direct messaging us on Instagram at Future Educators Talk, emailing us at futureeducatorstalk@gmail.com, or sending in a voice message to us by going to anchor.fm/futureedtalk. Click on the message tab to where you can record your question to us. Once again, we thank you for listening. Thank you for your continued support, and we cannot wait for you to tune in for season 4.
Don't just listen to Future Educators Talk on your smartphone. Continue the conversation online. Like us on Facebook. Be a part of our conversation by telling us what you think of our episodes. Join us on Instagram for behind-the-scenes content. Follow us on Twitter to stay up to date with what's happening on our podcast. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the notification bell so you never miss future episodes. And beyond, it's you who keeps Future Educators Talk going. So like, comment, share, subscribe, review, and connect everywhere with us you get social. So let's listen together.